Do you ever feel like you're operating on a different wavelength than most people? Like the way you think, feel, and interact with the world is just different? It's not about being better or worse, it's about running on a unique psychological operating system. Most people can spot the first few signs in themselves, but 99% miss the final, most crucial one. Don't skip it, because it's the one that separates a fascinating personality from a truly magnetic and trustworthy one. Emotional granularity. One of the first and most powerful indicators of a truly rare personality type is a trait that researchers call emotional granularity. This sounds complex, but it's actually incredibly intuitive. It's the ability to feel and identify your emotions with an extremely high degree of specificity and precision. Most people operate with a very limited emotional vocabulary. When something goes wrong at work, they might say, "I feel bad," or "I'm stressed." That's a blurry, low-resolution snapshot of their inner world. It's like trying to describe a Monet painting by just saying, "It has colors." You're missing all the nuance, all the texture, all the data that makes the experience meaningful. A person with high emotional granularity experiences the same event and can pinpoint the exact feeling. "I'm not just stressed. I feel a mix of disappointment in the outcome, frustration with the process, and a little bit of anxiety about how my boss will perceive this." This isn't about being overly dramatic or in your feelings. It's the opposite. It's about being an emotional scientist. You have the ability to dissect a vague feeling into its component parts, giving each part a name. This is incredibly rare because it requires a high level of self-awareness and a sophisticated internal framework. Our brains are wired to conserve energy, and it's much easier to slap a generic label like angry onto a complex feeling than it is to investigate its deeper roots. Is it really anger, or is it a sense of injustice mixed with a feeling of powerlessness? Is it sadness, or is it a profound sense of loss tinged with nostalgia? People with this rare trait do this investigation automatically. Their internal world is a high-definition landscape, full of rich detail, while many others are seeing it in black and white. The reason this is such a superpower is that what you can name, you can manage. Research by Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett, who pioneered this concept, shows that people with high emotional granularity are better at regulating their emotions. They are less likely to lash out in anger because they can identify the underlying feeling of, say, embarrassment and address that instead. They are less likely to get stuck in a rut of feeling bad because they can identify the specific flavor of their unhappiness and take targeted action. If you know you're feeling disappointed, you can seek out ways to address that specific feeling. If you just feel bad, you're lost in a fog with no clear direction. This ability also makes you an incredible friend, partner, and leader. You can not only understand your own complex feelings, but you can also help others decode theirs. You can look at a friend who says, "I'm fine," and gently ask, "It seems like you might be feeling a little overlooked. Is that right?" This ability to offer emotional clarity to others is a gift that builds incredibly deep and resilient bonds. It's a quiet form of genius. So, how do you know if you have this? You find yourself pausing before you answer the question, "How are you?" You mentally scan for the right word. You might correct yourself mid-sentence, "I'm angry? No, actually, I think I'm more hurt than angry." You might keep a journal, not just to record events, but to untangle your feelings about them. You get frustrated with platitudes because they feel imprecise and hollow. You crave emotional authenticity and precision. If this sounds like you possess a trait that allows you to navigate the complexities of your own heart and the hearts of others with a level of skill and grace that is almost unheard of. You don't just feel your life, you understand it, and that understanding is the foundation of true emotional intelligence. It's a quiet but profound signal of a very rare and developed personality. Intellectual humility. The second sign of an extremely rare personality is a trait that runs completely counter to our modern culture of expertise and hot takes. It's called intellectual humility. This isn't about being meek or lacking confidence. In fact, it's a sign of profound inner security. Intellectual humility is the ability to recognize that your beliefs and knowledge are fallible, and it's the genuine openness, even excitement, about the possibility that you might be wrong. In a world where everyone is trying to prove they're right, the person who is actively searching for where they might be wrong is an incredibly rare species. They are more interested in getting to the truth than in defending their ego. This trait is so rare because our brains are literally wired to resist it. We experience something called the confirmation bias, where we actively seek out information that supports our existing beliefs and ignore information that contradicts them. It feels good and safe to have our worldview confirmed. When we're confronted with evidence that we're wrong, it can trigger a threat response in our amygdala, the same part of the brain that handles physical danger. We get defensive, we shut down, we attack the source of the new information. It takes a tremendous amount of self-awareness and emotional regulation to override this primal instinct. A person with intellectual humility has trained themselves to do just that. They've managed to decouple their ego from their ideas. An attack on their idea is not an attack on them, it's an opportunity for growth. You can spot this trait in conversation. Someone with intellectual humility uses very specific language. They'll say things like, "from my perspective," or "the way I currently understand it is," or "I could be wrong, but." These phrases aren't a sign of weakness. They are a signal of precision and an invitation for collaboration. They don't state their opinions as facts. Instead of saying, "that will never work," they might ask, "can you help me understand how you see that working? I'm missing a piece of the puzzle." They are genuinely curious about other people's thought processes. They listen not to rebut, but to understand. They find joy and excitement in discovering a flaw in their own logic because it means they are one step closer to a more accurate understanding of the world. It's a complete reversal of the typical human dynamic. This personality trait is a magnet for smart, interesting people. When you demonstrate that you are more committed to learning than to being right, you become a psychologically safe person to be around. People aren't afraid to brainstorm with you, to challenge you, or to share their half-formed ideas because they know you won't shoot them down. You create an environment of collaborative discovery rather than adversarial debate. This is why people with intellectual humility often end up being the most respected and influential thinkers in their fields. They learn faster than everyone else because they are open to the widest possible range of information. They build stronger relationships because they make people feel heard and valued. If you are someone who secretly gets a little thrill when someone presents a compelling argument that changes your mind, you possess one of the rarest and most valuable assets a person can have. It is the signature of a mind that is truly alive, growing, and secure. Intrinsic validation. In our hyper-connected world, most of us operate within a system of external validation. We post a photo and wait for the likes. We finish a project and wait for the praise. We tell a story and watch for the reaction. Our sense of worth and accomplishment is often outsourced to the opinions and approval of others. It's a constant, low-level anxiety, a dopamine-driven feedback loop that keeps us performing for an audience. The third sign of a truly rare personality is the ability to operate almost entirely on a system of intrinsic validation. This means your sense of well done comes from within. You have a deeply ingrained internal scorecard, and it's the only one that truly matters to you. This is exceptionally rare because we are social creatures, hardwired from birth to seek approval from our tribe. For our ancestors, being accepted by the group was a matter of life and death. That ancient programming still runs deep within us. To untether your self-worth from the constant feedback of others requires a level of self-knowledge and inner conviction that most people never develop. A person with intrinsic validation doesn't need to announce their accomplishments. They can do a good deed and feel the reward in the act itself without ever needing to tell a soul. They can create a piece of art, write a story, or build a piece of furniture, and if they are proud of it, the work is a success, regardless of whether it ever receives public acclaim. This manifests as a kind of quiet, unshakable confidence. These individuals are not loud or boastful. In fact, they are often quite humble because they have nothing to prove. Their energy is not spent on managing their public image. It's spent on doing the work that matters to them. They can take risks and pursue unconventional paths because they are not afraid of failure in the eyes of others. For them, failure is simply a data point on the path to mastery, not a public judgment on their worth. They can listen to criticism without becoming defensive because their core sense of self is not on the line. They can extract the useful information from the feedback, discard the rest, and continue on their path, guided by their own internal compass. You might have this trait if you have hobbies that you are happily bad at. You play the guitar or paint watercolors not because you ever expect to be great, but for the sheer joy of the process itself. You might find yourself less and less interested in social media, not because you're against it, but because the validation it offers feels empty and fleeting compared to the satisfaction of meeting your own standards. You are driven by curiosity, purpose, and a desire for personal growth, not by applause. This creates a profound sense of freedom. You are no longer a puppet whose strings are pulled by the whims of public opinion. You are the author of your own story, the judge of your own success. This steady internal locus of control is a hallmark of a mature and incredibly rare personality, one that has found a source of strength that can never be taken away. Positive aloneness. There is a massive difference between loneliness and aloneness, and it is a distinction that most of our society fails to make. Loneliness is a painful, involuntary state of lacking connection. Aloneness, on the other hand, is a chosen, voluntary state of being with oneself. The fourth sign of a rare personality is not just being comfortable with aloneness, but actively seeking it out and deriving strength, creativity, and rejuvenation from it. This is what we can call positive aloneness. It's the ability to be your own best company. For many people, solitude is a void that must be filled with noise, distraction, or the presence of others. For this rare type, solitude is a sanctuary. This trait is rare because we are constantly bombarded with the message that happiness is found in social connection. We are taught that being alone is a sign of being unwanted or socially inept. It takes a strong sense of self to resist this cultural narrative and to recognize that just as our bodies need sleep to repair and recharge, our minds and souls need periods of solitude to process, integrate, and create. People who practice positive aloneness understand this on an intuitive level. They don't fear the silence, they crave it. It's in those quiet moments that they can hear their own thoughts, connect with their deepest values, and untangle the complex inputs of their daily lives. Scientifically, this makes perfect sense. When we are alone and not actively focused on an external task, our brain enters a state called the default mode network. This is when we do our best creative thinking, our most profound self-reflection, and our most effective problem solving. The brain connects disparate ideas, makes sense of past experiences, and plans for the future. It's the mental equivalent of a library reorganizing its shelves overnight. For someone who fears solitude, this brain state can be uncomfortable, bringing up anxieties and unresolved issues. But for someone who embraces positive aloneness, this is where the magic happens. They emerge from periods of solitude feeling more centered, more creative, and more certain of who they are and what they need to do. You can tell you have this trait if you find yourself scheduling do-nothing time into your calendar. You might turn down social invitations, not because you don't like the people, but because you have a pressing need for a date with yourself. You enjoy activities that are inherently solitary, walking in nature, visiting a museum alone, or simply sitting in a quiet room with your thoughts. For you, this isn't emptiness. It's a rich, full experience. It's a skill you have cultivated. This ability makes your social interactions even more meaningful. Because you are not using other people to escape from yourself, you can be fully present with them when you are together. You connect out of genuine desire, not out of neediness. This capacity to move gracefully between deep connection with others and deep connection with oneself is the sign of a whole, integrated, and exceptionally rare personality. Authentic congruence. We've arrived at the final and most telling sign, the one that underpins all the others. It's a concept called authentic congruence. This is the state where your internal feelings, your spoken words, and your nonverbal body language are all perfectly aligned. What you feel on the inside is what you express with your words, and what your body communicates to the world. There is no gap, there is no mask. This might sound simple, but in a world that constantly pressures us to be agreeable, to perform, and to hide our true feelings, achieving this state of radical alignment is one of the rarest and most difficult human accomplishments. Think about how often we are incongruent. We say, "I'm fine," when our shoulders are slumped and our heart is aching. We smile and nod at a meeting when we fundamentally disagree with the plan being presented. We say yes to a request when every fiber of our being is screaming no. Each of these moments creates a tiny fracture between our authentic self and the self we present to the world. Over time, these fractures can grow into a chasm, leaving us feeling disconnected and phony. The person with authentic congruence has done the incredibly hard work of closing that gap. They have cultivated the self-awareness to know what they are truly feeling and the courage to express it honestly and respectfully. This is why this trait is so magnetic. Our brains are incredibly sophisticated lie detectors. On a subconscious level, we are constantly scanning people's micro-expressions, their vocal tone, and their posture for signs of incongruence. When someone's words say one thing but their body says another, it sets off alarm bells in our limbic system. We may not consciously know why, but we feel a sense of unease or distrust. We have to expend mental energy trying to figure out what's really going on. But when we are in the presence of a truly congruent person, our nervous system relaxes. We feel safe. Because there are no mixed signals to decode, we can take what they say at face value. This creates a foundation of trust that is instantaneous and profound. This is not an excuse to be brutally honest or tactless. Authentic congruence is paired with emotional intelligence. It's about finding a way to express your inner truth in a way that is constructive and respectful of others. It's saying, I understand why you see it that way, but I have a different perspective I'd like to share, instead of just nodding along. It's saying, I don't have the emotional bandwidth for that right now, instead of resentfully saying yes. This level of authenticity is a beacon. It gives others permission to be more authentic themselves. It's the ultimate sign of a rare personality because it means you are no longer performing. You are simply being. It is the quiet, powerful hum of a life lived in complete alignment with itself, and it is the most trustworthy and attractive human signal you can possibly send. These signs are not a checklist for a secret club. They are markers on a journey toward a deeper, more authentic way of being. They are about trading the noisy, frantic search for external approval for the quiet, steady work of internal alignment. If even one of these resonated with you, it's a signal that you are on that path. The rarest personality isn't about being different for the sake of it. It's about having the courage to become more fully, honestly, and congruently yourself. It's the quiet confidence of knowing that the person you are on the inside is the person the world gets to see. Okay, I felt seen by the positive aloneness part. Which of these signs made you pause and think, wait, that's me? Let's share in the comments.